My name is Titus Gebel. I'm an entrepreneur, originally lawyer by education, but switched into the industry after a couple of years being a lawyer because I thought that this is more the field I want to play in. Amongst others, I founded Deutsche Rohstoff AG, a Frankfurt-listed company, mining and oil and gas company, which eventually became very successful. So I could retire in 2015. And from then on, I dedicated my work and my life to the idea of free private cities, which is my passion. The idea of free private city was born when I realized, after more than 30 years being active in the political field as an activist towards freedom, supporting liberty and self-responsibility, I discovered that the truth is that the majority does not share my views. And now I had two possibilities. One, I do another 30 years trying to convince the majority that these are good ideas, or I do something completely different. That is, I take myself out of the system and create a new product, which is voluntary. You can try it, you can see it, and then you can make it happen. You don't have the need to convince the majority to make it work. It's, as I said, purely voluntary, and it's called Free Private Cities. Basically, it's a private company that is acting as a governance service provider and is providing security for life, liberty, and property in a certain territory. This is all based on a contract. The contract is called the residence contract or the citizen's contract, and it says you have to pay a certain fixed amount per year for that service, and the contract cannot be changed unilaterally. So you are free to do as you choose as long as you respect the rights of the others and the few rules that are laid down in the citizen's contract. The main difference is that in a free private city, you know in advance what the rules are. I cannot change, as a city operator, I cannot change the rules unilaterally. In a democracy, you are subject to the ever-changing ideas of policy of the majority. They might change the rules of living together every year. They might ask you to pay more than you agreed upon. They say, okay, we're changing the pension system, and you didn't know that in advance. So you are subject to things you cannot influence, which is not the case in my system. In the free private city, you have a contract that gives you a legal position on an equal footing with the service provider. That means if I do something which is against the contract, you can go to independent arbitration and say, wait a minute, I paid that, and it doesn't say that I have to pay more, and you promised me a certain service, and you didn't fulfill your service well. That is absolutely impossible in a state, or be it a democracy or not. You cannot demand a certain service, and you cannot cut your taxes if you're not satisfied with the service, and you can't even rely that the taxes remain stable. And this is one of the main problems and one of the reasons why even our Western democracies are getting more and more unstable, because there's one side of the social contract that is constantly changing the rules, and it's not you. Well, nothing against socialism as long as participation is voluntary. The big difference between liberal, libertarian, freedom-oriented ideas is that we don't have a problem if somebody is assembling together with his friends or colleagues or ideologically aligned people and founding a socialist community somewhere. No problem at all, as long as the people who are going there are not forced. But socialism has a big problem if I do the same, for example, with free private city. I couldn't go in any socialist country like Venezuela and say, okay, I want to establish a free private city, just living according to our rules. So there's a discrepancy that is obvious to everybody. There's nothing, a good product doesn't need force. And that is what I think is, we are in a position that we can say, okay, this is what we offer you. We think our product is good enough. You come voluntary or you stay away. Socialism can't do that. Socialism only works if they force people to do something. And this already is a sign that it's obviously not a very good system. The biggest advantage of free market is that there is a kind of evolutionary development possible. That starting with like in biology, it's starting with mutation. That means there is trial and error. Some products work, other products does not work. Then there's selection. Some business models go bankrupt, others prosper. And then there's reproduction, which is I can copy successful models. And now if you take all this together, that means, wow, this is creating very good and very favorable products, even cheap products, which a lot of functions, because they have gone through that process. And what I say now is, let's take this idea of free markets and product development and business development in the free market and put it on our, what I call, market of living together. And we offer a new product, we try it out, or you only take it if you want it, you only come if you like it, and then we see if it's working or not. It's a realistic model. We are already in negotiation with 2 governments that are basically okay with giving it a try, giving it a chance. How can this work? It's only possible if you create a win-win situation. So only if the country thinks it can gain something out of it. And normally what it is jobs and investment, right? We say, okay, we're creating a stable, legally stable environment, which is non-corrupt, which is efficient, which is transparent, and everybody has the same rights, and we cannot change the rights. We cannot change the contract unilaterally. This is new. It's a personal constitution to everyone. That is absolutely new. And in exchange, this country is giving us a certain autonomy. We need to have at least autonomy to regulate our own affairs and to use our own authorities. If this is not the case, then it's probably not possible to establish a free private city or a special zone or a charter city that goes into that direction. But again, if the country thinks, okay, it can gain something out of that, and it's also feasible to say, of our profit, you get a certain percentage because we are using also part of your territory, your country, that is a fair deal. So it's a negotiation that is already starting. And insofar, I think it's very probable that we will see this happen. The other reason is it's not super completely new. It's a kind of a development of special economic zones. You can say this is special economic zone next level. And that's basically also the label with which we sell it to governments. Special economic zones normally have some easements regarding taxes, tariffs, maybe some labor law, social security law. A free private city has completely the right to make their own rules. Maybe some defense, foreign policy is still part of the what I call host nation. But the free private city is much more independent than a special economic zone. What's the difference to a charter city? The charter city model, according to Paul Romer, has another country coming in, bringing their public officers, bringing their rules. He mentioned Canada is building a new Hong Kong in Cuba as an example to understand that. But the problem with that approach is that no country really likes to have a foreign flag inside their territory. And I think with the free private city model, where a private company is coming with an international team, it is not coming with any flag. And we are basically choosing different legal systems from different places, different rules, best practice rules from all over the world. So it's not a particular country that is coming. So it's less threatening. It's no colonialism and stuff like that. It's just private companies making an offer to the country, to the host nation, and saying, this is what we can offer you. And I think of all these models, this is the one which is capable of enabling the biggest freedom to us in the future. No, the idea is, as I said, that you only pay for what you order. This is basically security and the dispute resolution system that we are offering, some infrastructure, legal system. But we think that the cost for that will not be much more than about $1,000 a year. So that means many people can afford that. And that is also necessary because we need people who have lower skilled jobs, who are working on not so educated areas, because this is needed in every city. And if you think that $1,000 is affordable, then everybody is basically able to come. You don't have to be rich to be a citizen of the free private city. You have to obey to the few rules that are laid down. You have to respect the rights of the others. And if you want to overthrow the system, we kick you out. I think that free private cities will create a new world that, even if there are only few around, they will influence the rest of the world, because especially people who are willing to work, they want to decide for themselves where they spend their money, where they make their investments, where they put their efforts in. And if you think you have only to pay $1,000 to the state, which is a private state government provider, then you have a lot of money for your own projects. You can support all kinds of charities. Of course, you have to take care of education and social security out of this money. But I think that people will look at those places and say, wait, they have a contract. I want a contract from my country too. Or they are only paying a fixed amount and they cannot change the contract. The provider cannot change the contract. I want the same from you, my state. And if not, I'm moving to the free private city. So it can put a pressure through competition on the rest of the world that there is a new approach to consider states as service providers and not as authoritarian rulers that decide everything, what you have to say, what you have to buy, everything they decide for you. And that is nothing people want. People do not want to have political participation in few areas. They want to have self-participation in as many areas as they can have. And this is what we offer. I don't think so. I don't think that we need politicians, maybe in few areas, because if they're free private cities, you have kind of foreign policy to the host nation and other entities. But within the free private cities, we don't need them, because policy means that a group of people is imposing their ideas upon the rest of us. And in the free private city, you are self-determined. That means there's somebody everybody wants, which is security and as dispute resolution. That is offered and that's paid for. For the rest, you're on your own. And that means even if people agree on a municipal council, right? Let's assume 99% of my citizens or residents want to create such a council. They can do that, and that council can make any decisions and they can pay for it, but they cannot force the 1% who do not want to be a member of that council system to pay for their ideas. So I think over time people will recognize that, well, I can really decide on my own. I respect that others have other ideas. I know that I cannot force my ideas upon them. And what will happen is that people will see, okay, why do we have to fight against each other? If we do not like it here, there's another free private city, or there's a public city, or there's a communitarian system where people have common property and there's no privacy or whatever. That's their choice. And I'm happy if there are a big variety, if there would be a big variety of different systems. Because then you can say, okay, everybody, you go there where you like it best. There's probably not one system that fits all, right? People are different. So when I have a system that fits to my personality, I go there. And other people go to another system. So there's no need within my system to convince the majority that we have to change the system. And I can't do that because I know everybody has a contract and they signed that contract knowing what the rules are. So I have a weak position if I want to change everything. People would ask me, why did you come in the first degree? Why did you sign, right? And I think that will create a type of person that has more self-confidence, is more realistic in their approaches because they have to take care of their own life. They cannot go to the state and say, I have a problem, solve it for me. They cannot live on the expense of others because they know everybody has the same rights and has the same legal position. So policy will be small portion of the daily life in that society. We will, in any case, look at the new technologies, especially cryptocurrencies and blockchain, which could be a method of proof for property transactions. At the moment, we think it's a little bit too early to put everything on blockchain, but probably it will come. So we are keeping that possibility open. But I have to make it very clear. I mean, we are all talking about these smart cities and technology stuff. And so free cities are much more important than smart cities. A free city can be a smart city too, but it's not enough to have technology. What you need is freedom to regulate your own things or to have such a free system, as I'm describing it, that you can really establish a spontaneous order, right? Because there's somebody taking care of security, so I can send my children on the streets even at midnight. It's taken care of. And if I have a problem, there's an independent dispute resolution system. That's fine. And for all the rest, well, let's see what we can make together, what we can make happen. The government provider of the city doesn't care, right? You can do that as long as you remain within the framework of rules, which is very moderate compared to what we have in today's cities. So this is more important. This is important. Free cities are more important than smart cities. Free private cities will be successful in the future because they serve a demand. This is demand for people who want to live free, who want to make most out of their possibilities, who want to be left alone. There's no reason that there's a group of people, be it a dictator or be it democratically elected government, why should they decide about your life? You know best about what is good for you in life, and you know that you can't do everything because you have to respect the rights of the others. And this is not possible in today's societies. Even if you assume there's a social contract, this contract is be changed all the time, constantly, against your will, and you don't have a say. And I think these advantages are so huge. You can plan really 30, 40, 50 years in advance in free private cities. You can't plan even 3 years in advance in the state of today. So that is something that will create a big competitive advantage. You have more economic freedom, you have more personal freedom, you have more long-term planning, security, reliability, and you will have more security too. Yeah, there's a website called freeprivatecities.com. I invite you to subscribe to the newsletter, which is coming quarterly, describing our project, other related projects in the world. I've also written a book. It's called Free Private Cities, Making Governance Compete for You. And you can get it through Amazon or through the website freeprivatecities.com.